Jingshin metok drum Rirab linshin ndegem pari Sangye shingdu mite uagi Drokun namdak shingla drupasho Iram Guru Radna Mandala Kamyatayami Sangye Chudam Sokhi Chognam Na Jangchu Badu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jingyengi Peng Sonam Ki Drolam Panjir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chudam Zoki Chognam Na Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jingyengi Peng Sonam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Drupasho Sangye Chudang Sokhi Chognam Na Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Jingyengi Peng Sonam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Drupasho.
Thanks, Sarah. I hope everyone here knows who Sarah is. I think you all do, but if you don't, you should. She's taught me part of the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, actually. And Hannibal. There's many people here. Oh, Danielle, hello, you're here. Another angel appears. There's many people here who've studied this text for a lot longer and more thoroughly than I have, so I really hope we can keep it a conversation. But I'm excited to dive in tonight. Just want to situate us. And was everyone in class last time? I think most of you were. Okay, cool. I'm seeing some nods. So we're in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by this guy named Master Shantideva, or to those who have different karma, to see him as Mr. Three Thoughts, right? And what did we talk about last time? We talked a lot about the wish, right? And you're going to see that throughout these slides. Anytime I have written the wish, capital T, capital W, it's a special kind of wish, right? Definitionally, it is the wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. But I think what that feels like is not settling for normal in your mind or your reality. And committing to that wish for not settling for normal all the time or as often as you can. And it's more than that, actually. It's not just normal for yourself. It's also thinking, I share this reality in a very interconnected way with not even just the people I see, but anyone I could conceive of. And so wanting that for them as well. So you're going to see that throughout. A lot of tonight's class is also about the wish and a couple of other things. We're going to get into the 6 perfections in a little bit more detail, and we're going to talk about mental afflictions, which until I encountered Dharma, I hadn't ever heard those 2 words together. And I love it. Like, I love it not in that I love my mental afflictions, but I love that there's a term that we can put to these states of mind that we know bother us, harass us. They actually say that's how it translates, this thing that harasses your mind. and that we could dare to imagine what would my mind be free of those completely. Right? And we're going to get into it. I don't want to like give away the punchline, but I always have to come back to in the battle against your mental afflictions, which is basically this whole path. Right? From now until enlightenment, there's some amount of afflictions that you need to rid your mind of. And are you approaching them in like a whack-a-mole fashion, right? That when the affliction pops up, you're going to whack it down, right? Are you using force to remove anger and laziness and selfishness from your mind? Or can you be a little more efficient and actually get to the source of where all of those afflictions come from? Like, what if there was one thing? Like, I kind of was thinking about it like allergies, like instead of oh, I'm having the allergic reaction, I'm going to do something. What if I don't have allergies, so I'm just like hypothetically speaking, but I'm pretty sure if you have allergies, what you do is you just don't engage with the allergen, right? Like you don't ingest the thing or like you don't interact with the thing that causes the allergy. If you can just remove that from the equation, there's no reaction. Mental afflictions are like the allergic reactions of ignorance in our mind. If you can remove the allergen, the irritant, the cause, ignorance, you don't have to worry about the mental afflictions. You don't have to whack-a-mole each of them one by one. You're just permanently removing all of them from their root. And we're going to get more into what is a mental affliction? What do I mean when I say ignorance, right? Is it stupidity? No. Is it a mistake that we're making all the time about the world around us? Yes. What exactly is that mistake? We're going to talk about it. So that's my little preamble. I'm going to try to keep my eyes on the chat as well. I see it going. Let me try to open it actually. Oops. Can I see it? Oh, great. I'm loving that we're going with this metaphor. Okay. So we're going to begin. Oh, this should feel warm and fuzzy for those who have, or sorry, let me back up. So the wish, bodhicitta, right? The wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. Remember that the definition of a bodhisattva is someone who has bodhicitta. That's it. That's what makes you a bodhisattva. And the most formal way that someone decides to become a bodhisattva is to actually promise to do so in front of the presence of their teacher. Right? That's like the formal way that would be you take bodhisattva vows in a ceremony. That's sort of where this opening is coming from. It's saying you can decide to do that, and you can decide to do that in two levels. You can say it's called the wish in the form of a prayer and the wish in the form of action, which is like basically saying, I want to be a doctor versus I'm going to enroll in medical school, right? It's like, I'm going to think about doing it versus I'm going to do it. You can in a ceremony, take vows you can enter a ceremony with either of those intentions. For those of you who've done that here, hopefully these lines like bring you back a little bit. We get to say these actually in that arena. And well, yeah, first let me get through this and then I'll add the caveat. But at some point in this process of planting the karma in your mind of I want to be a bodhisattva, right? Because there's no power in that ceremony in and of itself. We get so wrapped up in that, right? Like, I'm so guilty of this. Like, oh, okay, the altar has to be perfect and we have to have the perfect offerings and all the like logistics, because there's power in the ceremony in and of itself. It's this special thing. And that is completely turned around, right? Because if that were true, then we should be able to walk anyone in off the street, plop them into this ceremony, and they would have an experience. Or for every single moment of the ceremony, I know this, in my own ceremony, I like remember having highs and then complete like like the situation Mackenzie's sort of in right now, where it's like, wait, what am I doing? If anyone saw me right now, like what's happening? I couldn't even recognize myself. Like there's highs and lows. And if it were true that the power or the specialness of the ceremony existed in the ceremony, it should be a continuous, stable experience. If the source of the specialness is from the ceremony. So I want to like lay that as a foundation. It's the whole ceremony is just like it's like a garden party for the most important seed you want to put in your mind. Right? It's like the most important thing is that moment where you decide, I want to have the wish to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. Everything else is the soil, the fertilizer, the fancy cocktails, the beautiful, like all that stuff. It's just the stuff that elevates it in your mind to make it a stronger imprint. So as part of the ceremony, you actually get to recite these words, and they sound beautiful in the moment. And then in this class, we learned that they actually serve the purpose of bringing joy to your mind once you decide to become a bodhisattva. So there's actually a code in all of these. So when you say, now, finally, my life has some meaning. Born as a human, today I have joined the family of Buddhas. I am a child of the Buddhas. And those 4 things that I've highlighted are important. So the idea is, from that moment onwards, regardless of what you do, you can feel that you found your purpose in life, right? You no longer need to go out and search for that dream job or that the dream arrangement out there that will allow you to live your best life. Now, what you're saying is, I'm going to infuse meaning into absolutely every single moment of my life and take responsibility for it. And I just want to like add some color into what that means, because it doesn't mean that the stuff out there isn't going to make you happy anymore, right? Like we hear that a lot, right? Don't depend on outside stuff. Don't depend on the external stuff for happiness. It comes from within. And like, that sounds nice, but what does that really mean? And the best way I can, or one way I can describe it is, think about this thing that I'm sure many of us have. When this gets to 0% battery and is just sitting there, it's just a hunk of glass and metal, right? Without any, it's my iPhone. That's what this is. So when it gets to 0% battery, it is just a hunk of glass and metal. It has zero function without some sort of charge that animates it. That's what we mean when we say external things have no power. It's literally that. The power, the battery, the charge that they get, that's what we call karma, which is the thing in my mind that when I encounter this object gives it meaning, gives it function. Yeah, I love that, Kay. It is essentially a $700 paperweight until I have the karma to meet it and be like, wow, this is the reason I can be connected with my family across the world. This is the reason I have information at my fingertips. So it's the same way. When we say, finally, my life has meaning, it means, yes, go out and get the job, get the beautiful partner, get the things you want, and know with certainty where the happiness of those things is actually coming from. Know that you are constantly charging those things with your own intentions, with the things you've said, thought, and did in the past and continue to do. Born as a human is a reminder for us to feel really jazzed about having a human life, and not just any human life, right? Because I think it's pretty obvious that just on planet Earth, the levels of gradation in the quality of human lives is staggering, right? Think about your worst day as a human. That was probably someone's best day, right? Or think about your absolute best day. That was probably someone else's worst day. So it's not only the fortune, they say that there's like this, it's an amazing, rare fortune to be born as a human, and then even more so to be born as a human that's attracted to Dharma. Dharma being some sort of philosophy or toolkit to investigate your mind and your world in a real way, in a way that gives you results. So that's something you can feel really good about. Then today I have joined the family of Buddhas. I am a child of the Buddhas. There's a couple of meanings there. One has to do with, okay, so if it's true that an enlightened being is not constricted by like a human body or a mind, right? That's one of the qualities of an enlightened being. And that they actually, through the speed of thought, through the speed of their compassionate thought, can show up as anything for anyone whenever they're needed. That's like one of the qualities of a Buddha. And so the idea is that they're always hanging around, whether you see them or not. When you start to look for them, you can see them more clearly. But what they say about people who are trying to become a Buddha, like people who are trying to gain this wish or keeping their vows, if they've promised to have this wish, the Buddhas will hang around you more. So that's part of the meaning of I've joined the family of the Buddhas. I'm a child of the Buddhas. It also means like, if I do, this is gonna sound, how do I want to phrase this? Yeah, it's this sense of I'm not just part of the family, I'm promising to become one. Right? So it's like, sorry, I'm also watching the chat. It's saying that if that enlightenment isn't an accident, and so if there was a way for one mind to get there, there should be a way for two minds to get there. And if two minds can get there, then three can, and then an infinite number can. So why can't I? So there also has that quality. Let's keep going. I liked how, so I know like last class we talked about a bunch of the benefits of the wish, and then this class just has more. So in case you had any doubt as to whether this state of mind is worth trying to cultivate, right? The wish being the wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. Bye, Mackenzie, love you. Yes, the wish for every single thing that you do throughout your day to be a cause for your eventual enlightenment, right? That's the wish. And it's saying, we've already gone through some of the benefits, and then here are some more. So it's saying the wish has this power to destroy the 5 following things. Nothing else can, nothing else can destroy them but the wish, actually. So the first one is the Lord of Death within every living being. I thought this was very beautiful, because it reminds us that the Lord of Death, it's not like some grim reaper figure, right? That's out there, that's going to show up when it's our time. The idea that the Lord of Death is within every living being is the idea that your self-destruct button, all the causes and conditions for you to see yourself get old, get sick, or you might not even need to get old and get sick. People die in all sorts of ways all the time. You never know. But that potential is with you and in you at all times. But there's one thing that has the power to destroy that inside of you. Because as radical as it sounds, in this system, death is a mistake. It doesn't have to happen. It's a seed that's ripening that I'm forced to experience, right? It's not by choice, but it's caused by an allergen. It's caused by an irritant. It's caused by something that shouldn't be there. So it's possible to remove completely. The wish has the power to do that. So hopefully that also reminds us that the wish is not, I promise to be a really nice person. I want to be a really kind, awesome human being. That's cool, but we're going to take it a step further. The wish is saying, I want to destroy the Lord of Death within myself and every living being. That's the level we're talking. Not only that, I want to destroy poverty within every living being. You could think of this as material poverty, like lack of mind or body or things, whatever it is. If poverty, right? If the experience of seeing things run out, of seeing things stop working, of not having enough, what if I could reframe that as that is my karma running out? Right? At the end of the month, when my bank account's low, it's not because it's the end of the month. It's because my karma for a full bank account has run out. It's just that little shift. It doesn't change the fact that I need to pay my bill, right? It's not saying like we're going to some alternate universe. It's just saying if I can reframe that situation as, oh, my karma's run out. Oh, I'm low on battery. I need to charge up that experience. The theory is that I actually could quit my job and go out and demonstrate some generosity to someone else, and I would have the experience of my bank account filling up. Because full bank account does not come from salary. Can it appear that way? Yes. Can the delivery vehicle for my karma be my salary? Sure. But not everyone who has a salary experiences abundance. And plenty of people who don't have a salary do experience abundance. So the theory goes, if I can reframe it as, oh, my karma for abundance is running out. It doesn't matter what I do as long as I go out and seed my mind with abundance, which means I need to show my mind through the way I work in the world, generosity, giving, abundance, then I will see funds appear in my bank account. That's the theory. I'm getting sidetracked though. We're on the power of the wish. It can also destroy any illness, any general suffering in the cycle of life, as well as the suffering of the lower realms. I'm going to leave it at that. Well, actually, yeah. The next question that comes is, why is that the case? Like, why is that the case that the wish could do all these things? I'm curious to hear from any of you. Just unmute yourself. Like, don't believe me just because I'm saying, oh, it destroys these 5 things. Well, why? No one?
Would it be your intention?
Partially.
And planting a seed?
Yep, it is a seed. It is a very important, unstoppable seed, but I'm looking for a little bit more specificity.
What about Zoe or Sachi and John Chris? Or
I can
Chrissy?
share. Can you ask the question again? I'm pretty sure I know the question, but I want to make sure I don't say the wrong one.
The question is, okay, I've said to you, here are 5 things that the wish can destroy. Why?
Yeah.
Why is it that the wish can destroy poverty within every living being?
Sorry, he's being a dork. Because you are tricked to get outside of yourself and think about other people. I don't know. That's my guess. Yeah, you can't possibly destroy the suffering of other people. I mean, of yourself, unless you do it for other people first. So, I don't know. Just tricking your brain into thinking about other people will naturally have that effect on you. But I don't really.
What you're saying, thinking of other people?
Maybe I'm overthinking this.
I mean,
It stops.
Is it like?
I was gonna say it kind of makes a change in your habituated patterns or thought processes.
Yep. It changes the type of mind that you have. That's cool. That's getting closer.
Is it just like karma and emptiness?
It's always karma and emptiness.
I feel like it's like life just comes back to that. I mean,
Yeah.
like poverty, like I don't know, the money thing I think is a good example because money is just it's a medium. It doesn't in and of itself mean anything. Like it could be coins, it could be beads, it could be pieces of cotton. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's like, again, it's empty of a nature. So it has the power to destroy it because then you don't assign it a very narrow definition of something. I don't know.
Cool, I like it. Yeah, I mean, you all are sort of overthinking it to a certain degree, but also you're not wrong. The answer technically here is that really, like, it's almost obvious, right? In order to get enlightened, you need to have the wish to get enlightened, right? And it's saying that only when you have that wish can you reach full enlightenment. And then only when you're fully enlightened can you actually perfectly and totally help other beings, right? Until then, you can try, but you can't read their thoughts. And you're probably also, like to Zoe's point, you also have to deal with your own stuff. Like you can't really, truly devote every single mental movement to others. That the idea, and this is like to Abby's point, there is a way to completely transform your mind, and to Kay's point, where you have a different type of mind. You perfectly understand the workings of the universe, and you're actually qualified and able to help other beings. That might mean that you can emanate in exactly the form that they need you to, or that you can teach them in a way that like pierces right through their heart and gives them exactly what they need to hear. So ultimately, that's the answer here, where like, why is it true that the wish can destroy all those 5 things? It's because it's the thing that will flop into your enlightenment. And then you actually have the power to do this stuff. Okay. So enough about the wish. Now we're going into mental afflictions. So couple things on mental afflictions. First of all, what are they? Very simple, very simply, a mental affliction is a mental function, something in your mind that destroys the peace of mind of the person who has it. Put another way, anytime that you are not in complete and total bliss, you are having a mental affliction. So it can be really subtle, right? So like the obvious ones, and we're going to get into like what are the top contenders of mental afflictions, but like sometimes you know, right, that your mind is bothered. You know you're impatient or really angry or really jealous. But here it's saying that there's even the subtle stuff. So even that feeling of just restlessness in you, even the feeling to need to adjust your seat because you're not comfortable, or be thinking about, okay, when this class ends, what am I going to do? What do I need to do? Even that sort of thing, that anything that bothers or harasses your mind, anything that destroys the peace of mind, that would be a mental affliction. And whenever I think of mental afflictions, I actually think of when we were on retreat in Nicaragua and we had mosquito nets around our beds. And if you've ever had that experience and it didn't keep out the mosquitoes, but it rather invited them inside to sleep with you all night. And it's like, I just think of mental afflictions that way because they seem so tiny. They seem so powerless, but try being trapped in a mosquito net with them all night long. They will torture you. Metaphor, but your mind is the mosquito net. The mental afflictions are the negative thoughts inside there. They can seem small, but they grow. And so that actually the first contemplation before we get to like, okay, why would I bother to try to destroy my mental afflictions? Let's first consider how it is that they hurt us, exactly like a rock in your shoe. So the idea is that they actually leave us powerless. Think of how many times you've acted out of rage or fear or discomfort, and you actually didn't have the power to act in the way that you wanted to. So they leave us powerless. They send us to unthinkable suffering. I think that's related to number 3. The time that they hurt us is infinite. So the idea in this system of the way things really work is that once a seed is planted, unchecked, it is simply going to grow. Right? I think of this a lot. Like I think of like what's happening right now. Like think about the fact that this virus, which is, I think it's something like 1/400th the width of a human hair, something that tiny, left unchecked, it's pretty obvious that it can lead to unthinkable suffering. And actually the time it can hurt us is infinite. Without putting a stop to it, the momentum from that is just going to keep going. And the same applies to mental afflictions in your mind. So you think that angry phone call with your mom, right, put you in a bad mood for a few days. But the theory is, unless you do something to clean that up, we talked about purification last class, you will encounter a situation in the future where for no reason at all, you find someone being short with you or being angry at you or not giving you the benefit of doubt. And if in that moment I respond in the same way, I am literally I'm in that moment putting into motion the causes for fights to keep coming up in my world. The very thing I think will end the fight, me fighting back, me giving a smart-ass response, me ignoring, little do I know that is actually inviting that karma into my life over and over again. So they send us into unthinkable suffering. The time that they hurt us is infinite. And I like this one. They tempt us to befriend them. Like how many times do you indulge your negative states of mind? Right? Or just, and I think there's many meanings to that. It's like you hold them to be a part of your personality. You baby them. You basically think anything about them other than I will destroy you. Right? You being the negative thoughts. So that's one of the things they say to consider, that these mental afflictions have these qualities that they can almost like seduce us in our own minds. So I want to add a little more specificity to what they actually are. There's 84,000 of them, but here are the top 6. They should feel familiar. We've gone through this list many times, but every time I hear it, I can think of instances in the last, like forget 24 hours, like the last hour where I've had these in my mind, regardless of how many times I hear this list. So I think it's always worth going through. And to make sure we really understand what they are. So we're not trying to banish something from our mind, which is not like, which we don't need to. So the first 2 are related, liking things ignorantly and disliking things ignorantly. So the most important word in both of those is ignorantly, which we're going to get to what that means at number 4. But think of number 1 and 2 as liking or disliking something so much that you're willing to hurt yourself or someone else to get it, or to not get it. Yeah, that's the flavor of what those are. Like to what extent are you willing to go to get the thing you want, the thing that you like? Or to what extent are you willing to go to block out the things from your reality that you don't like? That's the flavor of number 1 and 2. Number 3, pride. I put an asterisk here because I just want to talk about what it is versus what it is not. The pride here is, when it's a mental affliction, is specifically speaking to you see someone in your world that you admire, right? Someone that you are confident they have qualities beyond yours. And then you have any flavor in your mind of, actually, they're not that different from me, right? Or actually, I'm even better than them. It's that, so it's like that flavor of pride is what they say. What I want to distinguish it from is this sense of enlightened pride or divine pride, which has more of a quality of like rejoicing, what we talked about last time. This does not mean don't feel good about yourself. Don't be proud of the amazing qualities that you have. It is not saying that. It's just saying be careful about how you go around the world and how much of that talk track in your mind is, I could do what they're doing. I'm just as good as them, or they're nothing. I'm everything. It's that sort of like mental pedestaling in our minds. Number 4 is very important. It is arguably, it is the ultimate allergen, is the idea. If you can remove this one, you can actually remove all mental afflictions. But it's in this list. And ignorance, it doesn't mean not knowing something, right? So like, I don't know how to speak Mandarin. It's not saying, oh, I'm ignorant about Mandarin. It's not saying that. Ignorance is not knowing, it's misknowing something. So it's me saying, or it's me thinking I really do know how to speak Mandarin when I actually I really don't. It's being mistaken about something. Do you hear? There's like a really important difference there. It's not the absence of knowledge in your mind. It's the conviction in something which is actually a mistake. And the thing that we're getting wrong that hurts us the most is where our world comes from. If you're anything like me, you think that you are a part of your world. Like the world exists out there. It's like this, I don't know, like this diorama of a world, and you're a little character inside of it. Right? And so then, I mean, if you think that way, it makes sense that you'd want to collect all the things that you want, be near the people that you want, push away the stuff you don't want. But the ignorance there, the mistake that I'm making, is that I am actually creating my entire world. So things aren't out there. It's the pen thing. It's the karma and emptiness thing, like Kay was saying. It's the ultimate mistake that I'm making is about anything at any time, thinking that it's coming at me, asserting its existence at me. The fact that I see it that way is one thing, but the fact that I believe it is the mistake. If you've heard the pen thing ever, if you've had a moment of realizing, oh, if I just think about it, that can't be true, you are starting to chip away at that ignorance in your mind, that mistake that we keep making. Yeah? I'm seeing some nods, but that's an important one. And it should be one that actually fills you with joy, right? Because if you can remove like if you're allergic to peanuts and you can just stay away from peanuts, great. Like that's the way you solve it. That's what this is saying. That all the stuff that I'm trying to get rid of, I actually can get rid of it. I can destroy suffering because the basis of suffering is a mistake. It's a thing that doesn't have to be that way. And you just have to start to see it. It should fill you with this sort of, I know a lot of you were like talking about joyful effort, right? One of those qualities of a teacher. Where does that joyful effort come from? Part of it is the joy that comes from understanding how things really work. Okay, how does one know if you're mistaken in one's conviction? Is it a true teacher or something else? Can you unmute yourself? And I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah, so like that reminds me of the I guess it's one of the vows, right? Where it's like you're spreading the wrong, it's a different word, but you're basically spreading the wrong gospel, so to speak. It kind of actually relates to Zoe's question a little bit. So like if you're misunderstanding something, but you don't misunderstand something, or you think you're so accurate in your conviction of whatever it is, and then that's like the thing that you're putting out in the world, but you like in and of yourself, you think that that's very accurate because you only know to the degree with which you know something. Like who then says like, actually no, like that's a misknowing of something, like as it relates to dharma, I guess. Is it like, does it really take like a teacher, like a real like lama to actually tell you you're wrong, or is it something else?
Cool question. I'll clarify, because the type of misknowing that I'm talking about here is very specific. It is the biggest mistake that we make is thinking things are self-existent. That thinking things are not empty of a nature from their own side. That's the ultimate mistake. In my experience, yes, you need a teacher to show you that for the first time. Like, it sounds so simple when we go through the pen thing, but I remember sitting there and being like, wow, I went to like a really elite boarding school. I went to a very prestigious Ivy League school, and no one ever explained to me clearly that, or invited me to contemplate that this single object, the fact that it's a pen for me and a chew toy for a dog, that has implications that matter. So for me, yeah, I needed a teacher to illuminate that for me. So that's all. I don't know. That's my answer. I'm not sure what you mean, Hannibal and Sarah, by experience. I'm not sure if I'm hearing your question, Kay, right? But when I say misknowing, it's not just about anything. It's about the nature of things in your world. That's the ultimate mistake.
What I meant basically is that, yeah, you can have a lama tell you otherwise, but then just like Hector keeps saying, then that means you could just follow any person who tells you anything. So you'd have to actually have a specific experience of that thing being the way it is. And of course, we have those experiences every day. Like, we see the sky is blue, we assume the sky is blue, we know the sky is blue, and not that it's blue from our perspective, or from us versus just inherently. But once you come across this this knowledge, you have to put the work in to actually have the experience that solidifies that knowledge or that experience. You're okay.
Yeah.
That solidifies that experience or that knowledge.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Hannibal. I was like, you're mistaken when in the long term it doesn't work. Like when it breaks, when the cause and effect that you thought was truth falls apart, then that shows you the mistake. That's what came to mind for me.
I'm curious who Hector X is. Hector?
I'm curious as well.
Hello.
Hello. I thought I'd sneak in from Costa Rica, and I love this discussion.
Very sneaky. Hello.
We got slow internet. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, we see and hear everything.
Okay, I love this discussion. It's so cool. I logged in just at the right time. It's so precious to hear this and see you. I'm in love with you all. Thank you for teaching, and thank you for studying, and thank you for putting your minds on this. It's such a good question. Of course, you're going to ask that good question, but I think Sarah's answer is Hannibal's answer is the same. Eventually, if we are lucky, we'll notice that the way we are certain about the universe doesn't work out. Things start breaking. Hopefully it happens in a short enough time that we can connect the dots. But samsara means we don't. The sky is not blue for everything. that perceives the sky. It's just blue for humans. So we're stuck in human world until that disappears. And not knowing that, misunderstanding that, makes us make mistakes that have broken results. But we won't see it until it's too late. And then you need a teacher. If you get a teacher, someone that can show you this, then you have to unravel. And that's really special, to find just the right teacher that you planted. Also teachers like the sky, they don't come from themselves. It's every effort you've tried to explain something meaningful to someone. You'll get a little glimpse of a teacher that's wisdom, and then they'll be just as shitty as you have been to other people as well. So they'll come and go until you understand that. But sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. That's why I didn't put the camera on. I was just enjoying watching you all.
No, I love it. Thank you for interrupting. I now feel like I understand your question, Kay. Thank you for that. And Sarah.
Yeah, it's the time piece, because it's like, yes, I get that eventually you do understand something, but you don't understand something with the experience until you finally arrive at that place. And I think that it's not really like a fast track question, like how do I fast track these learnings, but it's more like in lieu of time driven experience, time accumulated experience, how can you know? So, and I think this loops back in maybe with last class, which is Javier's answer of like having a teacher that truly understands teachings and passes it on without telephone. I think that like that's also another way to sort of externally validate, I guess. So I think that's kind of where I was, in lieu of experience and time. That's kind of where I was getting at.
Yeah, or you could have, which they say is, you know, the start of the path for so many people. You could have enough of you could have a shitty enough suffering in your life that exposes your own blind spot. I speak from experience, right? Until I had something that exposed me to my own blind spot of like, wait, maybe there's things I don't know that I don't know, right? It's not just the things I know and the things I don't know, because I just couldn't figure it out. I had tried everything else. Like now I can say, oh, that suffering was a blessing. It brought me to the path and all that. But in that moment, it was just like exposing me to this giant blind spot that I didn't know was there. So I think that's a way to get there quickly. And you hear from most people, that's how they started exploring this stuff. Okay, let's keep going. I just want to make sure we have time for like more discussion at the end. Where are we? Those first of the 4 of the top 6 mental afflictions. The last 2 are doubt and wrong view. Doubt, the important thing here, it's the lazy kind of doubt. So this is not saying that you shouldn't investigate things. There's actually a line that it's very specific. It's saying anything you hear, I mean, especially let's say a Buddhist teaching, you should cut it, rub it, and melt it like gold. Cut it against your personal experience. Like, does this hold up for me? Is it true that I can do the 4 forces and something happens? When I do a karmic experiment, is there a result? Use your logic. Look to people who you admire who have decided to live their lives in this way and see what's happening for them. Like that stuff, you have to do it. The mental affliction of doubt is just the lazy type of doubt, where you're like, oh, okay, I'm not sure if meditating is really, you have some doubts around whether it would do anything for you. And you then allow that to snowball. And because of doubt, you don't have a meditation practice. Or because of doubt, you're like, oh, I don't know if I need to keep that 6 times a day book. I don't know if I need to check my mind regularly. I doubt that it works. The lazy kind of doubt, that's the mental affliction. And then the last one is wrong view, which is sort of what we were getting at. It's the upside down, inside out way of seeing things, of thinking that things are coming at me, having that wrong view about it. It's wrong because it is the opposite of correct. That was a terrible sentence. It's wrong as opposed to right or correct, meaning not like someone's out there grading you like, oh, you had a wrong view versus a right view or a correct view, but is it a view that's going to get you closer to enlightenment? Is it a view that's going to get you out of suffering or not? That's the way in which it's wrong or right. Yeah, you're not getting brownie points for having correct view versus wrong view. It's just the difference between being in suffering versus being out of suffering. Okay, so those are mental afflictions. And remember why we're talking about mental afflictions. So remember when we were doing the metaphors for the wish last class, and one of them was the warrior. And you often hear that bodhisattva is like translated as like a warrior saint. And I think we talked about this. I had a really great conversation with Yev recently, for those who know her, one of our MTT grads, about how a spiritual path is like, it's like internal activism, right? It's saying, okay, my mind is my like battlefield, or my mind is the scene of the protest. That's where I'm going to work. And it's that same idea with warrior. What are the things that you're battling? It's your mental afflictions. As a bodhisattva, you're promising to do that. So that's also why that's why this whole conversation is coming within this book, right? The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. It's sort of like, can you envision or get to know the faces of your enemies before you slaughter them? Here are your enemies. Here are the top 6. Now you know. So this is a cool question. Here's the question and the answer, but the question is, okay, what about love or liking for the path and hatred or disliking for my mental afflictions? You just told me that liking and disliking are mental afflictions. So what about those two? Are those mental afflictions themselves? The love that I have for the path and the hatred, right? You just told me to slaughter my mental afflictions. What about no killing? Are those states of mind, are those not mental afflictions themselves? So that question comes up, and the answer comes from Gyaltsab Je, who's one of Jason Kappa's right-hand students, or right-hand men. And the answer is, think about it. Because those states of mind, love for the path or hate for the mental afflictions, because they are elements of the path itself, right? The path is defined not as, oh, I'm on the path because I'm wearing beads and the shawl and I meditate every day, right? That's not what makes you on the path or not. Or like we were talking in the beginning of the class, you actually, the ceremony is a beautiful container to become a bodhisattva, but there's lots of bodhisattvas out there that maybe never took vows in that formal way, because it's an internal promise you're making for yourself, right? But so the path equals, I am going to destroy my mental afflictions, right? Because those states of mind are doing exactly that, they are destroying your mental afflictions, you don't need to call it an affliction. That's a lot of words. Here's the way Hector put it once that like helped me. It's, if you're angry at anger itself, right? If you're clear in your mind that, oh, anger is just going to beget more anger, if karma is true. So if I'm angry at anger itself, would I call that anger? Right? It doesn't even make sense. How can you be angry at anger itself? If I have all this hatred for this thing called anger, I want to destroy it completely. That state of mind isn't anger. Or put more poetically, this is from one of our meditation teacher training grads. If I give my anger a job to do, if I employ that anger, it's no longer anger. It's a vehicle that I'm using to destroy anger and the thing that causes anger. So in that case, I don't need to think of it as a mental affliction. And the same goes for love for the path, right? It's not a self-existent love. Right? It's not me hanging around my teacher because I think they exist outside of me. It's not me getting to the cushion every day because I think I should. No, if I actually see those things as the echo of my own goodness, absolutely no problem liking or loving those things. So,
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, and the way I think of it is that like if the root of all your problems, of you know, your life, your world, your reality, universe, all that stuff is ignorance, then performing these actions, anger at anger, you know, hatred at, you know, your mental afflictions and all that, is destroying that ignorance. That's the purpose of you know, these quote unquote, you know, afflictions, but that cannot be called afflictions. So if you're using them to destroy ignorance, then it's like a I'm trying to make an image of it, but it's like something that you, like if you are something that you're trying to get rid of and you're cutting it from the bottom and you're cutting yourself up, you know what I mean? And so I don't know, like I'm thinking of an image of something, some negative thing that's cutting its legs off, you know, that causes it to
like rooting a weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing they say is, think about it. Once you achieve the goal of the path, right? And that really attracted me to Dharma, the way we present it, where there is actually a goal. The goal in this case with mental afflictions is nirvana, defined as the permanent ending of all those mental afflictions. So it's not just poisoning the weed, it's literally uprooting it so it could never pop up again, right? To your point, Kay. So that once you've achieved that goal, those two states of mind, love for the path and hatred for the mental afflictions, would just fall away like scabs. So you actually don't need to worry about them. So that's the other point that they kind of make around these. So I would recommend if you, like, I know some people are following along with the readings, but if there's any reading that you want to do, I highly recommend the reading for class 10 of ACI17. I'm going to read you a couple of passages just like as we keep going, but it was beautiful. It's all from the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. But here's one, which I think communicates the ferocity of a bodhisattva, right? Or if it's true that the wish has all those powers that we talked about, the wish has the power to destroy the Lord of Death within me and every being. So this sort of speaks to that. It says, you can tie me to a stake and burn me, kill me, or you can cut off my head. That would be fine. But I will never in any shape or form submit to my great enemy, the mental afflictions. So that's what we mean when we say Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. It's not just, I want to become a good Buddhist. That'll get you some results, but it won't kill the Lord of Death within you and all beings. This state of mind, directed at the true enemy, the mental afflictions, especially number 4, that ignorance one, the misknowing one, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so I feel like we've been talking about the perfections, the 6 perfections for a lot of this course, but I don't know if we've ever actually laid them out. So we're going to do that now. And one thing here, when you see this list, the idea isn't like to grade yourself against how good you are at these things, right? They're not called perfections because you need to be perfect at them. That's not what they're saying, actually. A better term for them would actually be perfectionizers. So it's not that you need to be perfect at these 6 things. It's that doing these 6 things perfects your mind. So they are perfectionizers. And I really love this teaching that's coming because it actually makes this list sort of come to life. They're not just a list. It's not just a list of 6 things. It's actually a sequential thing. And one very naturally leads to the other. So hopefully we can start to see that. But yeah, the function of the 6 perfections is to perfect the mind that seeks them, that seeks to cultivate them. So here they are. You've talked about some in more detail than others, but let's go through them, starting with number 1, the perfection of giving. a question comes here, which is, how do you know when you've gotten good at the perfection of giving? Right? Is it true that if you've gotten really good at the perfection of giving, that suddenly you should stop seeing homeless people out on the streets of New York, if you're like me and you live in New York? Right? How often are we looking for the external expression of this perfection? And what it's saying is actually the time that you know that the perfection has been, that muscle has been worked, it's an internal thing. It's saying, how much has my willingness to give increased? So the way I think about that, I mean, it's a very, literal thing for me walking around New York. It's the difference between when I see someone ask for something, am I doing the mental calculation of like, okay, they look like this type of person, I think they're going to use the money I give them to do this. Like, am I doing all that commentary inside? Or do I have this natural impulse to just be like, oh, if I have some coins in my pocket, I'm going to give them? Or even one step further, when I leave the house, do I just grab some change and put it into my pocket, hoping that someone could appear asking me and giving me a chance to practice the perfection of giving? Right? So the barometer is like an inside thing. Of course, the beautiful, magic of this whole thing is, will I see my outside start to change? Yes, that's the idea. And I also mean this literally. There was this beautiful teacher, her name's Connie. And when she came to New York, she's like, was telling this story about, or I think we were, you know how we always use New York, right? As like oh, it's smelly, it's filthy. It's a perfect example of if you have sexual misconduct, or it's a perfect example if you're not generous enough. There's people, begging for things everywhere. There's such a disparity between the haves and the have-nots. And I remember her saying like, oh, I don't see that. I've never seen that in New York. I've never, like, just having this sense of, I don't know, where like, it's not like she didn't take the subway. It's not like she didn't walk around on the streets. And it's also not that she was oblivious, right? But what's the difference between people who just don't have to see those things versus people who do? Not because they're deluding themselves, actually because they're very clear about where those things come from in their worlds. So, first perfection of giving, aka the willingness that you have to give. The idea is, if I do that more and more, I will naturally develop some sort of non-attachment for my possessions, right? They say that you start small, you give away like carrots and potatoes. And eventually you get to the point where you realize, oh, there's nothing I have that can't be given away, right? It goes back to that thing of like, oh, there's nothing you can take with you when you die. So what are you holding onto it for right now? So pretty naturally, if you just have this practice of giving going on, you're going to start to develop a non-attachment for your possessions. And they say that when that non-attachment comes on, or think about it this way, when all the chains of attachment in my mind are broken, are weakened, then quite naturally I could start to develop this sort of ethical mind, this ethical way of life, right? Think about what would happen if you didn't have to exert mental energy on keeping things that you wanted near you or pushing things away from you that you didn't want, right? You'd have all this space in your mind. And that space you devote to ethics, which means not following a list of things I can do versus things I can't do. That's not ethics. It is understanding that there are certain things that if I do them, they will lead to a result which I do not want. And it is making the clear-eyed decision to stop doing those things. Restraining from the non-virtuous deeds. That's all that means. Now, this is cool. How does restraining from non-virtuous deeds lead to patience? Please remember that patience here, it's not just, am I patient waiting for the G train, which takes like 14 minutes on average, right? That is a form of patience, but the very specific type of patience we're talking about here is, can I not get angry? even when I should? Can I reserve my anger and only give my anger a job when it's directed at my own mental afflictions? And otherwise, I will not get angry. So the way I think about this is if I'm truly restrained from non-virtuous things, I actually will see less situations pop up in my world in which I have to get angry, right? If I remove the cause for angry people in my world, naturally patience can come about. I can reserve my anger for the things that really matter, aka my mental afflictions, which is not easy to do, right? They say that it's a hardship. It's a hard thing to do, to stop yourself from snapping at your annoying little sister and instead snapping at the pride in my own mind. So it's like a hardship, they say, but if you can develop the muscle of patience, which is that third perfection, you actually get to strengthen that muscle. You get to bear great hardships. And I liked this, the parenthetical here is great hardships for Dharma.
Yeah, like your ethics will also, it's just, I was just thinking about this, like cleaning up your ethics or, you know, the crap that you do, also has an effect because, you know, you know how we say like it affects your meditation too. Like when you clean up your ethics, your mind is more at peace.
Yeah.
So in that sense also, it literally stills your mind.
Yeah.
And in that way gives you the muscle for the patience.
Yeah. I actually think it's really helpful to think of these as like muscle groups, right? Or like, you know that feeling of I don't know, this happens to me with dance, where like if you haven't danced for a while and then you go to a dance class, you remember all these muscles you didn't know you had. And then only because of that aching are you aware of them. So then you can start to strengthen them. And then that will get to you to a point where you can be like, oh, I can be even more subtle. There's other muscle groups that I was completely unaware of until I developed that first muscular strength. It's kind of like that with these things. The idea is they do lead to each other. So really, and that kind of maybe makes sense as to why we always talk about giving so much, because you just have to like get on the train. You just have to start with the first one and the other 5 will cascade. So thanks for that, Hannibal. And that's coming even more later when we get to concentration, that sort of like stilling of the mind. But before then, we have joyous effort, or joyful effort, number 4. And so the idea is, if you can actually develop patience, if you can stop getting angry at the stuff outside of you, you'll start to, it should bring some happiness in you, right? It's that feeling of like, oh, wow, I can do this. I can do this thing I didn't think I could do. And quite naturally, joy will arise. And this joy that is there all the time, joyous efforts night and day, which leads to this quality of concentration in your mind. Right? And concentration here, like, you know, I used to think of like I concentrate when I do my homework, right? It's like this, what if concentration were, I could very happily place my mind on the thing I want it to be on for an extended period of time. And I could do it so much so that it becomes a habit. And then it could just stay there. It would naturally abide there. So concentration is the single pointed quality of your mind and body. And the idea is you do that enough, you still your mind enough. This almost goes back to your question, Kay, right? Of like, how many times do I have to hit my head against the wall until I realize there's something I'm not seeing. There's some answer that could answer absolutely every question. So that sort of brings us to the 6th perfection, which is saying, once I have the quality of concentration in my mind, what's the thing that's worth directing that concentration at? How about the true nature of all objects, or wisdom, or emptiness? All synonyms for the same thing. So they lead to each other. Hopefully that is starting to kind of put those pieces together, right? Does it feel like, does it make sense how you can't just, I mean, I won't speak for you, but I can't just jump to wisdom, right? If I have all these thoughts of anger in my mind and I'm also not happy at all, I have no joyous effort. But if I can just start with the perfection of giving and let that perfect my mind, it will naturally lead to all these things. And this is a teaser for the whole rest of the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. So if you think about it, what we've done in this class, we've really only, in this review, we've only done the first 4 chapters. We've talked about what is the wish, why should you just be obsessed with this wish, what are all the powers it can give you, what are all the benefits of it, what do you need to purify in order to access this wish, and what are mental afflictions, right? And here's an introduction to the perfections. And the whole rest of that text, remember how we went through all those chapters and it correlates exactly to all the perfections, with the very last one being the perfection of giving, when you actually have something worth giving away. And that is exactly where Rachel and Hector will pick up in the new year with the next ACI course. So this is just a amuse-bouche. Cool? Okay, this is the last thing. I'm really glad Hector's here because I was like a little bit confused about this one. It's just the last question on the homework, so I want to make sure to like give you the material you need. But the question is sort of, I guess it's about the first perfection specifically, and it's about the practice of attracting other people to Dharma or to their own spiritual practice, to their own practice that will get them out of normal through the act of material giving. And there's more detail on this like in the reading itself, but basically it goes through these 3 things: when to give and not give food and clothing, advices around how to approach your own body are number 2 and 3. And yeah, I'm not really sure how this fits into things. I mean, I'll give a little bit of commentary, but Hector, I'd love if you could please chime in here. For the first one, my understanding here is don't teach someone to meditate if they are starving. Feed them first, right? Like you need to understand that. Yes, is the ultimate food and drink and medicine, like we talked about last time, Dharma, or understanding where your world comes from? Yes. But do you first need to make sure people have their basic needs met? Yes. So that's one thing to think about. Number 2 and 3 are basically, don't forget that you have a very precious vehicle. And you need to ride in that vehicle until you get out of that vehicle, until you're free from that vehicle. So yes, we talk about this body as this aging, dying thing that's breaking and getting sick, but as a bodhisattva, we are deciding to see it in a different way. We're saying, sure, that's true, but that's caused. There's a karma in my mind that's making me see this body as aging and dying. What if I could see it as the thing that's carrying me to complete liberation? And what if I could treat it that way? So I feel like it's like we swing the pendulum a little bit too much towards self-care, at least right now. I know self-care is like having a moment in pop wellness, but there is an element of that which is true. Like you should, at some point, this body can feel like an altar because it's the thing that's getting you to the goal. So you could treat it as such. That's important to do. And that's related to don't hurt the body or deprive the body in order to just achieve minor goals. And also don't, this is kind of that example of work at your capacity. So I think this comes in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. It's the thing around you start with giving carrots and potatoes in the giving, and eventually you could even get to the point where you could just pluck, yeah, Hector's doing, you just pluck out your eyeball and give it to someone if they need it. No hesitation. Don't fool yourself and think that you could get there without first having a practice of giving away carrots and potatoes, or at least filling your pockets with them so as you go around on the street, you have something to give. So that's partly number 3. But Hector, maybe you can help us. Like, I'm not sure why and how this all fits into everything else we've been talking about.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either, but I love an opportunity to talk. So, only kidding. What I think what this is referring to is a couple of things. The impulse that we're building in our minds to give, to genuinely get that inertia going, to give physical stuff like food, shelter, etc., protection from harm, to give the Dharma. There's a list of things one should habituate to give and which is more important, right? So we have to discern what people need, and we want to be able to know when to give what. But I think this here is referring to the qualities of that one develops in the act of giving. The karmas you're planting will result in you being the teacher, the Buddha, a Buddha, right? And there's 4 qualities or 4 modes of a teacher. The first one is generous. And so the generous teacher is using the capacity to give to satisfy the needs of those around them in order for them to begin the waking up process so they don't need anymore. So you got to decide, looking at the world that you exist in, where do you need to give food? When do you need to give shelter? When do you need to give protection? When do you need to give like of your time and energy and your body, to achieve minor goals because you don't want to hurt your body, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I think this is saying. Out of all the perfections, giving is usually the one that we use as the first example, because we say in giving and the rest, we say that in the prayers, right? The rest are the other perfections that are listed here. We have to develop all these 6 in order to become the teacher, right? And one of the modes of the teacher is the generous teacher. So I think it's interesting that on Christmas Eve, we should say, what do we have to develop to, I guess it would be sacrilegious in Christian to say, become the Christ, right? In Buddhism, it's not sacrilegious at all. It's the whole goal, become the Buddha, right? If Buddhists were Christians, we would want to be Christ. We would like to do all the things that Christ needed to do to experience that kind of self-expression in this world and take care through Dharma or teachings, knowledge, and giving and taking care and feeding everybody, etc. So this list begins with giving because that impulse, that energy of giving to everyone everything they need, from the smallest to the biggest thing, is the karma that a Buddha, when we become the teacher, we experience this everything giving us bliss. Because the result of us giving to everyone everything is to experience everything from everyone. And that's not the reason we're doing it, but this is the cause for that result. So I'm imagining that's the link between this perfection and this list.
Cool.
It begins all the others. And then just lastly, to answer, I saw Hannibal's question, this joyful effort, this happiness to do good things, which is in the middle of the perfections. It feeds the first 3. It's the wind that fuels the flame of all the other perfections. Because you can give, and you're doing a good Buddhist, give away money, give away things, give away. But if you're not joyous about it, you're definitely going to experience the results of that, but it won't be bliss like it is for a Buddha. It would be boring or stern or something, the same for meditation. And that's why we have to find the joy in even the hardest hardships. It is the wind that moves the other flames of giving and the rest. And so joyful effort when we give, joyful effort when we're ethical, joyful effort when we try not to get angry. Like, you gotta laugh at yourself, right? You have to be able to go, oh my God, we're just this minuscule moment in time. And in that time, we can transform everything. You've got to find the joy when our minds don't let us. So I hope that answered some of those questions, and thanks for the opportunity to chat.
I love it. I love the question that just came in, Kay, too. This is actually the last of the content for tonight. So I think we can get into this, but Kay's asking, is giving the first prerequisite because it's like a release of the nature of the thing? And I think that's fair. I think it does have to do with that sort of non-attachment, right? It's like such a loaded word, and I used to think it just meant that I couldn't like having nice stuff. Like I have to not be attached. And it was so liberating to hear that the only thing I don't have to be attached to is self-existence. If I can stop being attached to the illusion, to the mistake that there's power in things outside of me that are, it's just like that without me being there, and that they exist that way on there by themselves. If I can break that attachment, it allows all this possibility in my world, because it changes the way I can relate to them, interact, go through my day, and then nothing has to feel ordinary. I think that could be related to why you have to start with giving, because that's a very tactical way to start to break that attachment.
Yeah, sounds fair to me.
Yeah, it also reminds me, I didn't realize that this is where this saying came from, but I think it comes from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. You know that thing where they say you could cover the world in leather, or you could just wear shoes? That it comes from this text, which I thought was so amazing.
It does.
It's exactly that, where it's like, okay, should I just it's that same, should I whack-a-mole all my mental afflictions, or should I get to the root? Or should I just go around trying to do nice things all the time? Or should I wear shoes, the foundation being my understanding of karma and emptiness, of how things really function. So then then
everything you step on is sharp anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was, I don't know, I didn't realize that came from this text, but
yeah, it's from.
Okay, so I thought if people want to play, we still have some time. I wanted to just remind you all of the amazing thing that you did over the last 5 weeks and the amount of content that you moved your mind through. And I know for some of you, it's not the first time. And so I was thinking, and I think we have enough people to do 5 breakout rooms, but if you could, in your own words, what, like basically breakout room 1, what's the takeaway from Diamond Cutter, the Diamond Cutter Sutra? What are you taking away from that? It's like, okay, this is the thing that stuck with me. This is the thing I would do, right? As a result of what stuck with me. Group 2 does Bodhisattva vows or promises of a Bodhisattva. Group 3 does death in the realms, and we kind of go through it that way. Or we could talk about it all. I mean, it's a small group, so we could also just talk about it here. I'll defer to you all. What do you think? Danielle wants to stay all together. I'm seeing lots of this action. Okay, we don't have to do breakout rooms. We can stay here. But yeah, I want to hear from all of you. Like, what are the takeaways from each of those? And you can just unmute yourself whenever you're ready. Let's start with Diamond Cutter. Or lingering questions in your mind, we can do that too.
Emptiness, emptiness, emptiness.
Yes.
I just think, I don't know, this is related, but not. Like, I just think it's really fitting that it's on Christmas Eve, because Supriya, to your point, like, not everybody celebrates Christmas. I do, actually, but like, this year, it's just another day. So assigning like an importance and a disappointment almost to like this day shaking out the way it's going to, or tomorrow shaking out the way it's going to, does effectively me nor anyone else any good.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm releasing it of this like nature of importance. So I think it's just really fitting that it's like that this particular chapter is ending on Christmas Eve.
I didn't think about it that way. I love it.
And going back to the Diamond Cutter, the emptiness of Christmas, just like, you said, Kay, to some people it's like the world, and to others it's just another day.
I was just wondering, so at no point does any of this get selfish. Like, I will just give you an example. I am very underemployed right now, and I'm just being a maniac with like how ethical and like giving I've been, like how like the amount of giving I've done like makes no sense from like a outside rational perspective. And I'm doing it. I'm trying to keep the 3
Spheres.
in mind when I'm like in, and I feel so like joyful to like, cause like the reaction, they're like, what? It feels so good, but I'm doing it because I just wholeheartedly like want to like test and like believe in this. But is that like bad that I like have that in mind?
I feel like what Sarah chatted almost answers it exactly. She just said, this is her ACI6 or diamond cutter takeaway. You must save everyone, but if you think you've saved them, you're mistaken. And understanding that is how you save them. What the fuck? So amazing and so weird and hard. So I feel like you could apply that exactly to your thing. I must keep giving and keep practicing the 3 spheres and keep helping other people get jobs. But if I think in any way, oh, that's how I'm gonna get a job, or like, look at me, I'm so good for doing that, then I'm right back to where I started. But actually doing that with my mind is the thing that would create the causes for something that appears like a job or abundance or whatever you need to actually function. It's like so.
So we can't, while we're, if our goal is I really want a job and I like have the job in mind, so I'm going to help other people get jobs. We can't have that in our mind as well, that like, yes, we do want to help them. That is true. That is genuine. But also like, we want the job too. Or like, is it wrong view to hold that as well?
Wait,
I
also,
think so.
I don't think I explained it right. When I give people things, it's not that I think the thing is going to be the thing that saves them. It's just, I think it's going to be the thing that like everybody can get enlightened if we were all just like this giving and not like, is that like, I'm confused because like maybe go over the 3 spheres or like what you're supposed to be thinking.
Can I jump in for a sec? Yeah, because Sydney, it's a really cool question, and I think also Sam. No, of course, we all have to try and get what we want. Yeah, we just don't. We can't get stuck in thinking that even getting that thing that we want will make us happy, because we're insatiable. So this practice, imagine you get everything you want today. Within an hour, you'll start thinking how it could be better. So you're screwed, okay? Like, sorry, get everything you want. And then in a minute, you're like, but I wonder if I could get this something else. That's not to say don't try and get what you want. Get what you want, get happy. Because the window of opportunity we have in this precious human life, where your mind is clear enough, where your capacity is able enough for you to get some goodness, is limited. So whilst that window in that big cycle of life starts going around, and you have, Sydney, the opportunity to give and take care and place your mind in the highest understanding you've got, and try and imagine everyone get free of suffering and reach some enlightenment, use that to no end. Use it, like abuse it, like whatever you need to do to place your mind on that wholeheartedly. But don't fool yourself, because you'll get disappointed when the window closes. At some point, the window will close. Your mind will close that window. A job will come and then you'll be busy with the job and you can't think of something else, or something didn't work out and you'll get disappointed. Your mind will shift. And this is the part where we need emptiness. This is the part where we need the wisdom that understands where things come from. Your mind just shifted. Your capacity to give in the way you're giving right now has shifted. Don't get despondent. Use and ground yourself in the logic that understands cause and effect never fail, but not cause and effect outside, cause and effect inside. Every moment that you wished everyone got enlightened is growing within you like a forest of seeds, of magical seeds. Even when the next hour something shitty happens, those good seeds are still there. You just can't see them because your mind shifted, but they're growing. Just like the next shitty thing is growing inside you now that it's about to come up. And so a real Buddhist, a real wake-upists, doesn't get lost in the appearances. You get inquisitive. You're like, oh, look at that garbage that just came out. Oh, interesting. Now I don't have that fervor or that understanding. And if I can give you any advice from 25 years of doing this, is just like a zodiac, the wheel will turn and you'll come back to this state of mind of abundance and giving at some future time where these flowers begin to ripen. And then give, do whatever you can, and then it'll close again, it'll open, and it'll be gradual. It'll be a graduated experience of transforming the world. But it's in cycles, like everything is in cycles. So whilst you can give with all your might, and to piggyback on that, on Sam's question, if you need work to keep creating goodness in your world, do the work. Like, go ahead and selfishly help a bunch of people get a job so you can get a job. You'll get a job and the job will be selfish towards you, right? Because that's the flavor of the seed you planted. But ride that bitch, like ride that job. You see what I mean? Like, ride that thing as however it ripened. It ripened however we planted it, yeah? And gradually we perfect it. The more wisdom we apply, the more three spheres, meaning emptiness is in everything. On my side, giving, on that side, receiving, and everything in between. That's all the three spheres mean. Meaning, how do I think of me as empty? Oh, I'm currently Sydney, and I've got this awesome open heart right now, and I want to infect everybody with wisdom. That's not always Sydney. Sydney changes. At the moment, you're that Sydney. That's what emptiness is, yeah? The emptiness of Sydney. I have capacity right now. Use it and abuse it while you can, because it's a virtue, it's a goodness. It'll close up. Don't be disappointed. The emptiness of closing up, yeah? And the recipients of all my giving, some of them don't care, Sydney. You're trying to be all enlightened and whatever, and some of them like, yeah, whatever, Sydney's doing anything. The emptiness of the recipient. You still planted the seed. Doesn't matter what they look like, yeah? Some people will be excited hearing you. Some people will not. That's the emptiness of them. It's nothing to do with how you gave it to them. That's the karma that ripened at the time, emptiness of the recipient. And did I say the right words when I tried to explain, or did I do the right thing when I tried to give it? That the emptiness of that. Sometimes you give something, it works out, something. So that's all, emptiness of that. So my big advice on that for Sam and you and everyone else is, actually it's in that list of take care of the body, right? This human body that we have, the capacity we have to speak, to think, to act on behalf of, to give food to take care of. That's limited. At some point, your arm won't move. At some point, you'll be too old or you'll be too forgetful. Use the power of you right now. It's a current karma you have to do the highest thing you can understand. Yeah, stretch, and it'll close, and it'll open, and it'll close. Try, keep trying. That's my 2 cents on that. It's a really cool question. Don't let appearances stop you from doing what you intellectually understand to be true. Things don't have a nature. Everything I do with my mind will have a result. Everything, including over questioning, doubting badly, doubting well. Like there's no Buddha ticking off a list. It's you. Everything you put in your mind, you know. Whether you're lying, whether you're telling the truth, whether you're being genuine, whether you're being, you know, you're recording your future. And you got to tame that bastard. Like, because it's wild. And you got to do it with joyful effort. If you want the result to be happy. I hope that was okay. Sam, good? Yeah, good. Oh, John, Chris and Sachi, you're in Hawaii. Oh. I'll post pictures of us on the beach. Stephen went surfing today. Yeah.
I just want to keep it moving. Any takeaways from the Bodhisattva Vows course or ACI7? You can just unmute yourself.
I like nodded, but I realized I don't have the words. It was in the presentation at some point where it said, like, don't think of it as, chains is not the word it used, but it was like, it's liberating. And I think that's very accurate. I don't drink because I'm super allergic to alcohol. So for me, it's not even an issue of like, oh, what am I missing out on? It's simply like, oh, it's not even a factor because I just can't do it. So I feel like vows is like that to some degree, where it's like, oh, it's not even an issue because I just can't, I just can't do it. Here's like, not these things I can't do, but it's like, it's not even on the table anymore. So I don't, it's just, it frees me up to think about other things I can do. I thought that was super helpful, thinking about it that way.
I love that you gave that particular example too, Kay, because for so many people, that particular vow is so, it brings up so much for them. And the fact that, you know, for you, you're like, yeah, I'm just allergic to that. So it's pretty easy for me to do that one. Another example of like the emptiness of the vow itself, and all of the vows are empty of a nature. So like to Maya, Diego, and Zoe's point that, yeah, you decide what the vows mean to yourselves. Doesn't mean that you don't understand what they are. It's not like that, and David, sorry. It's not like they're all open to interpretation. They're actually all quite specific, and you study them once you, hopefully before and after you've taken them. But what turns them on is you putting them into practice. Were you going to say something, Sachi and John Chris? I saw you on mute.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the way I've seen vows has shifted. Like I used to, which is very common, look at like monastics as being almost like feeling a little sorry, like, oh, they don't get to experience X, Y, and Z. And then now I'm like a little jealous of them sometimes. Like you, Supriya, I'm like, oh, you know, I wanted to quit my job, and I'm like, they get to do all these vows. But what stuck with me is the idea that we have to ask for the vows and they're given to us. So it's like something you can get to be thirsty for and like really look forward to. So it's like the emptiness of vows. Somebody can see it as constricting and somebody else can see it as this gift that you need to beg for to be given, and that can supercharge your practice.
It's actually, it's beautiful the way you put it, because they say that's the case not just for vows, but actually for teachings in general. You the thing that creates teachings in your world, yes, it's first of all the karma to have teachings. So don't be stingy with any knowledge that you have. But it's actually the power of your request that materializes them in your world. You know, why do you think we give a bribe in the beginning of class when we do this offering? We're asking for our most beautiful seeds to ripen in that moment, right? In that next moment for the teachings. You have to ask for, I want to see my blind spot. I want to know what I'm getting wrong. I want to know the mistake I didn't know I was making. And it's from the power of that request that could even feel like begging sometimes, that you actually then get the fruits of what you receive. So that's a beautiful reminder. Anything else on Bodhisattva vows? Or I'm curious, death in the realms, a lot of people, specifically like when we were doing the thing around like, what do you want out of this course? A lot of people were really excited about that particular subject. So I'm curious what the takeaways were.
Coolest thing for me with Death in the Realms is seeing the way the different realms can exist for me, like here in human land, where I'm like, oh wow, this is such a paradise, or like this is for sure a hell realm right now, and getting like a little bit of a flavor of how I created those mini realms within my realm, and how much just like sitting with how much worse it could be if I was actually like throttled in, or how much better it could be if I was like really throttled into a better one. That's been kind of cool.
Agreed. Anyone else, or any questions that are still in your mind about that subject matter?
I would love to know when you explained how like a soul, you're in Bardo and you see your parents having sex and like you're Is it because desire, like sex is a desire and you have desire on your mind that's how it works? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It just magnetizes you to it. It's thinking that that act in itself is pleasurable. And as you're saying, you have desire on your mind already. You have this like desire system hard coded into you. So it sees something and sorry, I'm seeing the chat.
Hannibal, you did now.
You did. That's the idea. That's the thing, right? It's like at that moment, it's not, you don't have the labels of, oh, there are my parents doing this thing, I want to do that thing. No, it's you have that impulse has been coded so hard that anytime you see it, you're attracted to it. And at that point, right, Bardo beings, they don't have a physical form. You move where your mind moves. I mean, that's the case for us too, but we don't believe it because of the time lag and all those things. But there, it's quite obvious. Your mind just moves on that impulse, and you're there. And that, they say, is what puts the next moment into motion.
My favorite thing from that class is the death meditation. I think it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of the people that signed up for because I saw Death in the Realms. I really didn't even read anything else, and I was like, okay, here I am. And also in that space, I think we talked in that class about like being in moments where maybe we've accepted our own death, and I'm trying to think of like maybe what that means with like joyous effort, because during that class I could think of several times where I was like, oh, this is the time, and it wasn't scary, or I don't know, some of the other things that I don't know other people might put with that, or maybe what I'm supposed to, like in a westernized way. But yeah, so it made me think, I feel pretty comfortable here. How can I go deeper? Or, you know, so when you said death meditation, I think that's probably what I need to do next, and probably have done it in many ways, in many different ways, but to have more intention. And I can't think of any other word other than intention, but just more awareness there would be cool. Cool because I feel like it's a gift that I can share and that I feel called to share. So yeah, I just want to share that part.
Is it Eden? Is that how you say your name? Or is it Eden?
Eden, yeah.
Eden. I love that you connected that with joyful effort, because that wish to want to give it away to others is the joyful effort. It's like, oh my goodness, if I could, this is so fundamental. If I could figure it out, imagine how much liberation from fear I can give to this world. Understanding like your inquisitive nature on this topic, which everyone else doesn't want to look at, right? The reason for it, which I heard in your answer, is to help someone else go through it or something, or to teach it, or to get some insight to give it away. That is the joyful effort. And so I love death meditations because it is like the taboo. And if I can make that taboo accessible for people, fear will drop. And at that moment, which they must all go through, hopefully I can alleviate immense suffering. And that to me is exciting and powerful and worth doing. So you answered your own question in your comment. I just want to say it's stunning. Yeah. Thanks for making that link.
And I think a lot of people, especially in the next few months, will need that wisdom. Like, I mean, myself included, I'm just reading the headlines about the projected death that's coming in the next few weeks, and I like felt myself kind of recoil, right? Okay, I got to go into personal lockdown again. Here we go, everything's getting shut down. Rather than like, tonight I could die just walking across the street, forget getting COVID. And so having that awareness and knowing that for a lot of people, like their automatic response isn't joyful effort or curiosity, it's fear and shutting down and going inside and protecting themselves even more, rather than the thing that could ultimately save us from death.
It reminds me, Hector, of what you were talking about when you had your thing at the MTT. When you had to go to the hospital and the like the peace that you had, basically, you know, and the joy, essentially, of knowing, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a pretty cool death meditation at the emergency room, and it was stunning. Like, I'm trained at this. I can ride this tiger. It feels amazing, and I wish that on everyone, you know. And I'll help whoever needs it, whenever I can. It's just another thing, and yet we've hidden it in a corner. It's the only thing we are sure of, and we've hidden it in a corner. It's sort of crazy.
I'm curious about takeaways from Vinaya or ethical codes.
This one for me was the moment of like turning the
Wait,
Was it?
did anyone else hear her? Or is it just my karma? It's like,
No,
that's
I
the
think
most important moment.
Our shared karma.
Wait, say it again, Sam. Oh, she's frozen. Sam, I really want to know. If you can hear us, Sam, chat it in. With your robot on it.
maybe we could make up her comment and answer it ourselves. We could just imagine what she would have asked.
At the height of suspense, you started cutting out as soon as you were like, "This was
I
the
know.
point for me."
I'm on my phone now, so it should be fine. Yeah, it took a lot. I became really afflicted with ACI9, and it took a lot of me like flip-flopping around with the vows to really see them as a moment of liberation, as a like, I don't actually need anything outside of me to have the experience that I think that, you know, XYZ vows that I can no longer do or have, whatever are providing me. And then it became really empowering. Like I felt like I was supercharged with, I don't know, some extra like lightning juice of like, I'm not willing to give up on my mind so easily, to say that like it's more suffering to not have these things outside of me. So still working with it, but that was really big because I don't think at any point in ACI or Dharma I had been so afflicted about the content. So we're moving.
Thanks for sharing that. If anyone else has anything else about Vinaya or this last review that we did on the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, how did that land?
Can I just say, like, even though this is only my third class, you guys explained things like really well. I haven't got the chance to kind of catch up on the previous sessions, but it kind of gives me like a kind of perspective before I jump in to like catch up. So it kind of like even in the last few classes, as we're explaining stuff and like giving clarity on it, it reminds me of things that I do or things that I've done that relates to like these things. So I just wanted to say that, but you guys give excellent explanations and give me something to expect or to like look forward to as I jump into these previous chapters.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Amazing.
I think we've had good teachers. I think that's what happened.
course, Supriya, there's like two things I really love. I think I really love this one a lot. The first is I actually love how sticky Mr. Three Thoughts is as just like a thing. And then it's because it helped solidify for me that like anytime I catch my mind maybe judging someone, it's like, hold on, you don't know, this person could be a bodhisattva. Like really skilled practitioners made that same mistake. And I just love that when I like catch my mind like Mr. Three thoughting someone. And then I really love, I don't know if it was the dedication that you shared last class, but like I just felt like chills like when you read it. I definitely want to keep reading that and placing my mind there.
Yeah, it's a really good tattoo option. May I be the medicine and the cure.
Even better get his gun ready.
Well, it's so good. I actually was thinking about it today. My mom was calling me. I had an exciting week. I had a really hit a life milestone, you could say, in kind of the traditional sense of things. So she called me and just was congratulating me, and she's like, "Yeah, now all you need to do now is get married and you'll be set." And it was like this feeling, and she just wants the best for me. She just wants me to be happy. But this idea of no, now finally my life has meaning. All those external milestones, like they're going to come, and I am going to celebrate them because I'm going to remember where they're coming from. I'm creating all this goodness, so cool, I'm going to reap it. But the way to finally have my life have meaning is actually that, to become the medicine and the cure, to become the food for the hungry and the drink for the thirsty. Like, what more meaning could I want than that? I'm going to go for that. So I also resonate. I love that dedication.
Yeah, definitely last class was really inspiring. I just felt like there were so many things that we touched on that a lot of us kind of like can relate to. So it was just kind of like, you guys are like, I don't know, like feeding like the need that I need to know more, like the need to understand and comprehend. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, the need to understand and comprehend. But I felt like definitely, even just now, like talking about like death and realms, even though I haven't read up on that, it just kind of like reminds me of how far, like how much you can transform your life in a short period of time. Like, as the year is coming to a close, like we're ushering into a new year, new era. It's time to like start fresh. And I just start thinking back today. I'm like, I've done so much in just a last month, because I'm looking at like old things I did in last month. I'm like, wow, I don't even use that anymore. I don't even do that anymore. And I'm like, look where I'm at now. Like I can learn from everyone that's around me now, kind of in a way. Like I put myself in that position to learn from everyone, to learn from you guys, and yeah.
Where did you come from, Zaya? So happy to be here.
So all right, there's another person that's actually in this class. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I really don't want to say it wrong, but I think her name is Tion, but it's Tsion, kind of spelled like that. But she's not in here today. But it's actually pretty crazy. I'm pretty sure you guys heard of TikTok, the app. I don't really like getting on social media too much because it could get addicting, but I met there is a girl, she made a big server for just everyone that's on like a, a spiritual journey. And we're all kind of like connected from around the world, and we're like talking to each other on a regular basis. And I'm like, wow, you guys feel like family. Like, it's not often that you get to be around like good energy. And I was telling myself like last month, I'm like, I really want to up my take on focusing on myself, because I feel like, especially just like observing the people around me, we really lack in giving back to ourselves. We give so much to others and not enough for ourselves to take the time to like really understand who we are, or like what is it that we would like, what kind of life do we want to live. So in that group chat, she said that she was taking this class, and I was like, oh, that's crazy, because I bought a book that was basically about kind of like the fundamentals of Buddhism, like just a beginner's guide. And she was like, they have class every Tuesday and Thursday. So I was like, okay, I'll sign up. And here I am. So it was definitely, it's so crazy. And I was telling, like, everyone's now interested. Like, we talk every day in the service on a Discord server. And it's so fun, like, just being around a bunch of people that's my age, or not even my age. There's a few that are younger, older, and we all learn from each other, give each other tips. It's so, like, it feels like a community, you know, but it's online, but it's like, so what, and like, you know, but yeah, we're all here. And they're going to be here. I think most of them will be here for next section, like section 2.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. It's so funny that you said her name is Sion, because we do have Hannibal's who you hear anytime Hannibal unmutes and you hear the little voice in the background. Her name is Sion as well. So I was like, wait, that's who brought you? That's amazing.
Wait, I missed that name.
He said CSION.
There's Sion there.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce her name, so I didn't want to like missay it, but she's usually here.
That's so cool that Sion brought you here.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing to just be around people like that. But that's what I was like, these people that I've met, I'm like, they feel like really like family. Like that's how you guys did. Like you give me that warm family feeling that you need to like push yourself further, to be better, to do better, you know. But it's amazing, like honestly, truly.
Yay.
Oh my God, everyone's like 10 out of 10, love this realm. No, we're trying to escape this realm, remember?
Stop it.
No more desire. No, it does feel like a little pocket of Buddha paradise every time we gather. Let's dedicate, and then we can keep smiling and staring at the screen at each other.
Do you have announcements or after dedication? I'm not sure.
I didn't make a pretty slide. I was definitely going to put it in the follow-up email.
For when the next class starts?
Yeah. I'll put that all there. It starts Jan 12th.
Okay.
I'll put all that stuff in there. So you have a little.
Okay, great.
Will you close this out, Aktorla?
Yeah, I just need to move because I'm sort of slumped down on a couch. I'm going to have to stand up. Here we go. Here we go. Thanks for asking. So this is a mandala offering. For those of you that don't know, it's a perfected universe, which means every goodness we just had in our minds as we just enjoyed each other's voices, that multiplied by infinity to every being. Saji Puki Jishi and Metoktra Rira Lingshi Anyunde Vimpadi Sange Shindu Mite Guargi Dropen Namda Shinla Jupar Show Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Nidyatayami Gewadihi Geoku Sunam Yeshe Zogzog Shin Sunam Yeshe Legend Way Damba Puni Topar Show